All right. Looks like we've got the regulars here. It's always interesting to me to any kind of newer thing to see the consistent people.
Mm.
So it's a good thing. Thank you guys.
Yeah, it's important.
So I know all of our chats, our discussions here have been pretty informal. I want to keep it that way until we can get more structure in place, just because I'm not fully prepared to roll things out in a bigger manner yet, because there's some important things that need solidified. So a few things I'd like to cover today are one, there's been a lot of talk on statistics and getting real stats. Two, the mission and values. Three, the website and what that means and what it will be. Legal structure, which is still a bit of a question mark, but I at least want to address it. And then, whether we want to push for lobbying and what that would take to do, which takes me to the final point of funding. Again, this is still a very informal conversation until we get some of this stuff a little further down the road. You guys, whoever's here right now, like even in the Discord channel, this is the very early days of this. So it's, some people have come in and they're like, well, hey, why isn't there more info and, things of that sort. And it's because this is still kind of the brainstorming stage of how do we go about this the best and most effective way. So let's get to it. So getting real stats, I'm actually surprised at how many statistics are out there that people aren't aware of, that I'm not aware of. There's a lot out there, but I think cross-referencing and validating is also very important. We can't just take whatever statistics we stumble across and then assume that that's across the board. So I just want to make sure we keep a level head about statistics. And I think most importantly, I think we need some help on gathering all of this. I take notes here and there, but it's a bit spotty as far as the statistics go. Is anybody gathering statistics
Yeah.
as far as like making sure they're not falling through the gaps here?
Did you see the demo, sort of the survey that I sort of shared earlier that I was trying to work on?
Yes, I saw your survey. I think I'm beyond that though. I'm talking about reports and articles and things of that sort as well. Like I thought the Goldman Sachs article that I had shared, I don't know if you guys saw that. That was over the weekend, I think.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that had a lot. And I don't know how accurate it is, but it's credible because it's Goldman Sachs. So, I think we're going to have some statistics that are more accurate and some that are more credible, and they're not always in the same category. So, actually, I was a little bit surprised. So, I'm assuming on Goldman Sachs they probably paid the big dollars for these financial reports, but they have job opportunities by market. And I thought it was really interesting that construction is number one and dead last is cinematography. So the public perception versus the reality of dollars is quite inverted, because most people would assume that cinematography is like one of the primary uses for a drone with a camera on it.
Right.
And
I think
construction would probably be way down the list.
It's a safety thing. I think, it's putting machines in places that are super dangerous for people.
Yeah, I would agree. I guess it's just surprising that there's 11. Is that million? So is that 11 billion that it's saying? So it's 11,000 million. So I think that's 11 billion construction industry in jobs. I don't know how they're qualifying these jobs exactly. But anyhow, it's still interesting. So let's see. Oh, Cujo just joined. Welcome. And okay, so we're looking over a few statistics. You know what? I'm gonna post this in the general chat just so everybody can keep up. Okay, then Alex, you had your statistics as well. Have they been updated since you last posted?
No, not yet. I've been pretty busy, so I try to work on it as much as I can.
Well, that's okay. I was just curious what you may have so far.
But I shared it to you. Here, let me have it up on my computer. I have a few of the statistics on there, just not all. I haven't cross-referenced yet with some of the other sources I got it from.
Okay.
So far, the only one that's complete, sort of, is the one from the Rotor Riot Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay, that's fine. It's a start. I think it's going to be an ongoing thing to constantly be collecting and logging data and statistics. So yeah, really the only thing I wanted to cover on that, I even went a little deeper than I had anticipated. I just wanted to express the importance of real world statistics, and most credible and accurate data that we can get a hold of is good. I will continue collecting the links and my notes, but if other people want to do that as well, that's fine and encouraged, I should say. So hold on. Oh, Ryfly is asking, somebody going to let him know that we're in the voice chat? Ah, there we go. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next order of business, mission and values. I'm almost certain that I don't have the most recent version of the mission statement. Let me post it in here so we have a starting point. So the FPV Freedom Coalition fosters the freedoms of recreational FPV pilots, enhances our culture through defined safety guidelines and effective educational resources while protecting the rights of access to abundant airspace. So I know there was a lot of discussion this week on that. Does anyone, I don't think, no, Squishy probably isn't here today. Does anyone have any notes that are obvious that I have missed as far as the evolution of the mission statement?
Don't remember.
It's all right. We'll just, if it's anything that's obvious, then go ahead and jump in there. If not, we'll leave as is and come back to it another time. So those who have just joined, I put up the current draft of the mission statement, which it's still a little clunky, but I think it's got mostly the essence of what we're going for. So any criticisms from people on this voice chat?
No.
All right, you guys being way too agreeable.
I know that Squishy had some things that he posted in the Facebook. I was looking for my phone so I could pull it up, but he did have some statements there on that.
Let me pull that up, see what I can find here.
Was that the thing about the core value things?
Well, he's been working on the values as well. That was separate, so I'm not sure if he made any new suggestions on the mission statement itself.
Well, when you read it, it doesn't really leave any room for question. I feel like it's pretty clear cut in the most recent form, and kind of all encompassing. Like I think it looks good.
I like
nice.
what it says. I think what I struggle with is maybe if we can make it say the same thing but a little more concise, and a little easier to read, I think would probably what my only criticisms of it. So yeah, what do you guys think of that?
I think it does need to be a little bit more concise and to the point. Let me work on it a little bit today and see if I can bring it down to a different level.
All right, thank you. Since you kind of are our resident writer.
Do my best.
Yeah. Okay, so we can move on from that. And I like to keep these. I would rather have more frequent voice chats that are shorter than, longer and less frequent. So forgive me if I kind of rush through these, but as long as there's nothing we have to discuss per point, I will quickly move along. The website. I actually started it. So we have the domain, we have the site. It's just a template right now. Once we get the mission, the values, and a couple other sections fleshed out through an outline in text, then we'll work on getting some photography and getting it up. I think it's best that rather than just rolling it out as a logo and coming soon, we get it fleshed out a little bit, because I would like to use the website as an introduction to, say, support. So if we want to bring a company or an individual in as a supporter, I want them to see something real, and something that kind of is very concise, to the point. Here's what we're about and what we do. And I think we're still another week away from that. But I think I will need your guys' help on some of that content. Maybe even specifically Cujo. You have a lot of great writing samples, and I'd love to lean on you for some of where I might just throw you some sloppiness, and if you could clean it up, that would help.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. And one of the things I was thinking about is, going back to the Tony Hawk Foundation, yes, they have their mission statement, but then they have a couple paragraphs kind of expanding on that. And I think if we do that, we get our concise mission statement that we can post on the front page. And then in the about section, we can go into even more depth on that. And I definitely like your idea of getting it fleshed out before we release anything. At least get, a little bit of content up on there that people can peruse and see what we're truly about.
Yes. So is that something I can urge you to start working on now, where if you want to, break it out a little bit, and it can be a volley back and forth, and even a collaboration in our small community here?
Yeah, you got it.
Excellent.
Yeah, like a long and a short form.
Yes.
That's awesome. And also, if you need a hand as far as anything photography wise, you could always let me know.
Actually, yeah. Okay, let's add that to this list, because yes, I love photography. I think it's very important to give a tone and a feel. In this case, I think it's important that we see culture. So that's the buzzword for the photography, is I want to see happy people flying, but I don't want it to look like an ad.
Right.
I mean, I want it to look, it's fine if it's polished, but real people. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I don't want to. Ideally, it would just be your style of photography, which I love. But you know what? The best one was when you guys had Chris there from Deadband, and Joshua and Stingy. That one photo. You know what? I'd love to pull and put that in here. Do you have it? Can you put it in the chat?
I'm not at my laptop's inside.
Let me see. I might be able to find it.
I don't have it on my phone, but I can message it to you as soon as we're done here.
Okay, I just want everybody to see it that's on the call.
Oh, I could just drop it in the chat.
Yeah, just drop it in there so people can see it, because I felt like that was really that really embodied what I think we're looking for. It's, there were smiles, there were diversity in people.
Right.
I'd like to see a little more diversity, as far as culture, race, gender.
Well, I'm planning on grabbing a bunch of candids for Andre at the Rampage anyway. So
okay.
I'm gonna make, that's gonna be one of my, aside from other stuff I have to do, that's gonna be one of my big things that I'm gonna be doing at the Rampage, would just be walking around getting, candid shots and stuff.
Excellent.
And I'll obviously take any opportunity prior to the event to grab some of that as well, as best as I can around here. It's a pretty sparse FPV population up here in around Asheville, but I'll do what I can in the meantime. But at
it's okay. It can evolve too.
Cool. Yeah, and I'll get that shot over to you. And in a worst case, there'll be plenty to sift through after Rampage.
Okay, excellent.
Hey, if you need photos, come down to Myrtle Beach from Ashland, because there's a fairly big community growing down here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hey, Chad, just to emphasize your point with all the mission statements and everything, we definitely want to be concise, but we also want to make sure that we don't regulate ourselves with our mission statement, so we can keep it. We want to make sure our points are clear, but we don't want to limit ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is there, do you feel as though there's any examples in it currently that are limiting us in a way that you're concerned about?
Right now, I see it as good, but I just worry when you start revising things too many times, you start getting more specific all the time, because you're like, well, I want to get this point in. I want to get this point in. And
I gotcha.
So it's a comment of caution. And then the other side to that is, I think we need to make sure that it's explicitly clear, because I've just gotten in a huge argument with people through the Facebook page of the differences between our community and operating safely, plus obeying current laws and everything like that. And there's a huge misunderstanding with people within this newly formed and established community of determining what is right and wrong versus what is legal and not legal.
Yes.
I mean, a good example of what I can say, and I've referred back to this a few times for this exact reasoning. You remember the old Rotor Riot episode where they did the treasure hunt with drones?
Yep.
And Chad Nowak did a very specific thing of where they went to that one site with the donut and said, even though he felt like he could do
Ooh, hello?
You there?
Oh, it was just getting to the good part. There you
my
go.
phone cuts in and out. But so it's that example of how Chad was talking about mitigating his own circumstances for the situation,
Right. No, and I think
that point needs to be clear with the community, because people are. I've run into a couple of arguments now where they're trying to regulate ourselves by saying everything we do is bad because it's not away from everybody.
Right. Well, and that's the problem that we run into, because if you want everything to be equally safe and legal and keep people happy, you won't be able to do anything. So there's not a single action we're going to be able to do that is all three of those. So agree. We have to pick a platform, and I think the one area where most people can agree, not saying they do, is safety. That's just from my personal experience in the space for so long. I noticed that people will argue over rules and laws and expectations and joy and all of this stuff, but the actual safe actions are pretty universal. Like, don't fly over people. You know what I mean? Like, that's and if you do fly over people, is it your friends? Are they know? Do they know what's going on? Are they okay with it? So that's going to take a while to spell out, but that's also going to be, I think, the platform that we start with, because once we can get people unified on one aspect, then we can spread out from there. So, Stingy, I see you just joined.
I did.
So we were just talking about the I forget exactly how it came up, but we were talking about how there's a difference between what's legal and what's safe, and and people getting on the same page. And one of the examples he brought up was when we did the scavenger hunt, and you and Nowak were talking about the flying by that donut, and some of the conversation that happened there. I always thought that was a really great juxtaposition, because we had Steele and Tommy were doing one thing, and you guys are talking.
And they just do it. They're just like, "Yep, done. All right, and out."
So,
yeah.
But yeah, so did you hear what I just said about safety and laws?
I did hear a lot of what you just said, and one of the things that was coming to my mind as I came in here is that a lot of this, we talk about education in terms of educating our community about safe practices and legal things. We also might want to look at educating the general public, because think about it like this, like relate things back to a basketball game. If you showed up at a park and there was a basketball game being played, you wouldn't try to set up your picnic in the middle of the game, because you understand that is a dangerous place to hang out. The public in a lot of respects doesn't understand the dangers of drones, and it's going to be a hurdle for the FAA going forward as they integrate this. You can't have kids like walking up and grabbing things out of the sky. There's like a lack of understanding, and it might be a great opportunity for us to outline some of that and help on that front for them.
Nice.
I think I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
That's a great
if you will.
Well, yeah, so we're not going to tackle that yet, because I think the first thing, I want to talk about it so people know that it's coming, but and Stingy, just to get you up to speed, what I'm looking to accomplish first is just getting the mission, the values, the structure, all of that kind of underway before we can tackle some of these bigger issues. And in the meantime, we're going to be looking at statistics. We're going to be, engaging more people, bringing them in more organically. There's not a big push to get a bunch of people on this Discord or in the Facebook group yet. I'd like to just have some smaller conversations. We start getting too many people in, and people don't understand. Like the other day, there were some people that tried to post flying videos, and it's not directly relevant. And I think possibly some feelings were hurt, and it wasn't that we don't want to celebrate what we do. It's just this particular collection of people, we have a very specific purpose, and we need to stay focused on that. So we can't have people just talking about and doing anything. So that's a point I wanted to make. So Sean, looks like you made it.
To go in along with what you're saying, Chad, and also with what Stingy was saying, personally, I have contacted my local representatives for South Carolina, and I'm still trying to get confirmation one way or the other. I've left messages, but anybody who could be dealing with these, to include the people of that subcommittee from the dreaded video, I've been inviting them to come out. They could get firsthand experiences with us, because I think that will change their perspective when they see what it is that we're doing, how we're operating, and everything. How we do have an education side that we're pushing. That we do have people that are coaching. That we do go around with, in partnership with the AMA, and because I've seen too much false information being pushed towards politicians, and they only think of drones from either DJIs or military strikes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the more awareness that we can bring, through responsible behavior is going to be very positive. And it'll be really great once we can once we can get this structure in place and be able to give people tools and ways to sync up, so to speak, I think that's going to be very powerful down the road. So I do actually, it brings me to a point that I want to share with you guys. Ideally, in a perfect world, we would be able to do a lot with, lobbying and advocacy and insurance and, legal and all of that. We would love to be able to help facilitate. But obviously, we're going to be limited to what we can afford to do. And I'm very hopeful. I think once we get this moving, there's already been a ton of people helping out. Mary has actually sent me some really great links, and even made me aware of the drone. What is it? The DAC drone. I always forget the name of it. The subcommittee on aviation, I think.
Drone. Now I had it and I lost it.
Hey, Chad.
Yes.
Have you talked to lawyer Liz? Do you know her?
No, I don't.
She is a tech and in particular drone aviation lawyer here in Atlanta. Her husband is really big in the hacker space, and she does a talk show on drone law. I could probably loop her into this conversation too. Might be valuable.
Oh, that would be great. Okay, yeah, definitely. But here's what I was going to say is, we can have the big vision for this, and that would be amazing if we accomplish that. However, we can do a lot just by education and awareness. So at the bare minimum, if we are starving and have no funds and no support, we can still get organized and bring out some safety guidelines and education. So those are the kind of the platform and the basis of all of this. So that's why I keep coming back to that, and it's so important. Go ahead. You're cutting out a little bit.
To local ordinances for states at the very least, and maybe hard states. Everybody operates a little bit differently. Like a friend of mine told me it's actually illegal.
Hey, Rye, you're cutting out really badly.
Sorry, it's my house. I get horrible signal inside. I'm just saying that if we could get links for information from people local courses, that way we can get people are laws that there are that we have to obey.
I don't think we heard most of that. I heard links. So, and feel free, you can type it out too if that helps, so you can be heard.
Yeah.
Still breaking up.
That we have to obey.
So, okay. Let me see. Let me grab my next note here.
If I may offer a slight derailment.
Sure.
Have you thought about getting some tech publications out to some of the events, to maybe Wired or even Popular Mechanics or something?
I think that would be great. Again, while we're taking the time to get some of this organized, the mission statement, the values, the guidelines, safety guidelines. It's an awful lot like building a website and getting it out there. You don't want a lot of traffic until it's ready, because all the magazines and what that's going to do is amplify whatever story is there. So if we want to, get people excited about it, then that's fine, because there's plenty to get interested in and excited about. However, if we want to talk about the bigger vision, and if people just imagine Wired goes there and they want to talk about the supposedly, and I'm saying supposedly because I don't have actual data to know for sure, but the drone bombing.
Oh, geez.
That
okay.
Everybody was talking about over the weekend.
Right.
We want to be prepared for all of that and have necessary answers.
Fair. Very fair.
I think one of the key points is, we need some kind of talking points for just about almost anything that controversial that could happen in the drone community, whether it's local or international, so that we can respond appropriately to that kind of stuff. That way we're not kind of shooting ourselves in the foot.
Absolutely. In my brain was just going in the direction of like a kind of a window into the culture.
Yes. No, I love that. I can tell you a lot of times they just look at numbers, they look at head counts, and they look at dollars. And when they see either of those rising quickly, that's typically what makes it newsworthy. We're still probably a little ways away from that. Although I think one number that is interesting is the amount of FPV freestyle videos that are being posted every day seems to be increasing. So I'm not sure what the angle is on that yet, but I think that is a number that the media would be interested in. And real quick, the Drone Advisory Committee, I don't know why I was drawing a blank on the acronym there, but they are accepting new members, and I do intend on applying for that. One of the things I had to get put together was a bio, because I've not had to have a bio in quite a while. But I think that would be very helpful if I can get on that committee. And then let's see, we have legal structure. I think that depending on right now, I'm pretty certain we're going to have to be a nonprofit, which is I've never set one up before. So I'm going to have to do a little more research on that before I make some final decisions on how that's structured and how we go about it. Not sure if our resident lawyer, Mary, has much knowledge in that area, but I would like to consult on that. And then I have funding. So there's going to be a number of ways that we can get funding to move forward. It can be private funding from companies that support the same mission, which again is why it's important to get that kind of overall personality of this group together and make the vision, mission, values clear, because that's what people look at when they want to help push something forward and fund it. So that's still a little ways down the road, but we can do a lot without funding, which is volunteer work and a little bit of organization. That's the biggest point that I wanted to make on this call or this conversation. So, okay, so Sean Squishy just chimed in. He says, we have a mission statement. We almost have values done. We can move on to larger steps needed to organize nonprofit formation, education committee formation, lobbying committee, and possibly access team. With smaller teams, hyper-focused on smaller parts will help. I love that. I love the way he's thinking. Actually getting all of that managed is where I'm going to need some help. So I think this week I'm going to be focused on trying to get some of that management underway. So, okay. So and you guys feel free to, direct message me if you have anything you want to offer, whether it's ideas, advice, resources, whatever it might be. Already we've had so many people kicking in and helping, and I really appreciate it from everyone. So, okay, so that's pretty much the points I wanted to cover on my end. Now I'd just like to I have about probably 10 more minutes if anybody has questions or anything. Nothing. Great.
I was about to say, I'm good. I think we all kind of got our marching orders here.
I was just gonna want to raise, maybe start thinking about guidelines for that Facebook group.
Oh yeah, actually, I posted some very basic rules in our group, but yeah, I'm definitely open to adjustments or additional. But Scarecrow, tell me what you're thinking.
Oh no, I just was, I wasn't sure if you wanted it to be more of like an open forum, or if you wanted it to be like, if you wanted to have like just a single news thread where everything news related went into a single thread rather than a brand new post every time. There are a number of ways to do it that will kind of keep things organized from the beginning, rather than trying to wrestle it all in once it gets not to say out of hand, but for lack of a better.
No, it will. I mean, yeah, up to probably 1,000 members or so, it's going to be pretty manageable. We can just get stuff in there and start to find a flow of how it works. But once you start getting over 1,000, it will become a little more challenging. So I think typically how I've done it in the past is we just get things rolling, kind of see what the natural conversation's like, and then we start to formalize it as we go. But I do agree we need to, we'll eventually have to have some more guidelines, and I guess as we get this stuff finished, we'll just keep introducing more and more structure as we go.
Okay, and just let us, if you have moderators, just let us know what specifically to look out for, what specifically to pluck from the room and all that.
I think right now, just mostly keeping stuff on topic, like I mentioned earlier. Like a flying video is not really, unless it's relevant to, hey, I want to talk about the safety, or I want to talk about the location or the law, or something like that. That's a little different.
Sure.
But, let's keep it very on point as far as like what we're here for. Other than that, I mean, I expect people to be respectful of one another.
Okay, great.
And as like I said, as we move along, we will probably we will refine that more and more.
Awesome.
So, okay. Well, I think this was great for another impromptu meeting. Real quick, while I have this is the most people we've had yet. Let me hear from everybody. What do you guys think is a good time to have kind of these powwows?
I'm pretty much mostly available.
So is everybody on here in the U.S. right now?
Yep. Well, I am.
Yes.
Anybody not in the U.S.? Let me put it that way. No. Okay. So then mornings, afternoons, evenings?
Before 2 works best for me. There's only Sunday mornings would I be unavailable.
And you're East Coast, right?
And I'm East
Or
Coast.
No, you're Central.
No, I'm East
Where
Coast.
Are you? East Coast.
I'm in Asheville, so I'm still East Coast time.
Gotcha.
So any time between, before 2 in the afternoon works best for me, but I don't know if that's important or not.
Okay. All right.
I'm putting off work to be here.
Oh wow. Well, what time zone are you in?
East Coast.
Okay. All right. So I think it gives me a little bit of an idea. Okay. Well, thank you guys. Thanks everyone for your help and your participation. And we will probably touch base later this week. I'm going to fill out my schedule and see when I can get another window, and we'll chat some more.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.